speak to us today maybe 5 different chapters, hopefully by the end of this sermon series. At least that's my hope. And as you leave here, as the sermon series wraps up, you'll be able to think, oh, 1 Peter, here's 5 things that really mean something to me in 1 Peter. Now, if you didn't know this, the reason why the sermon is titled My Pet Rock is because Jesus once is talking to Peter, and he says, hey, Peter, who does everybody say that I am? And Peter says, some think you're John the Baptist, come back from the dead. Some people think you're Elijah. Some people just say you're a prophet. And he goes, well, who do you say I am? Peter says, well, you're the Messiah. You're the anointed one, the one we've been waiting for. God's chosen servant, And Jesus says, Peter, on this rock, I'm going to build my church. And he renames, it was a different name, but he renames him Peter at that moment, which is Cephas in Greek, which means rock. And if you ever look at the Gospels, you notice Peter's one of the people that come up all the time. And it's the story, there's always Peter. And if you're going to narrow down, Jesus had 12 disciples, but if you're going to narrow it down to the most closest inner ones as far as we can tell in Scripture, you get John, you get Peter, and you get James. But so many of the stories have Peter as the focal point. It almost feels like he was the teacher's pet. And Jesus named him, you're my pet rock. So that's where Cameron comes all along, right? Coming around here, my pet rock. And thus, 1 Peter, as we study this book, my pet rock is the name of this sermon series. Now, many of you probably have heard of pet rocks before. We're going to get into that in another sermon. But I had a pet rock growing up. Of course I did. Those that know me, I pretty would expect it. When I was 6 to 8 years old, I had a dog, actually. I had pets, and we had parrots and all sorts of cool stories. I'll tell you those stories sometimes later. But one day I was doing an arts and crafts book. I was the youngest of 3 children, and my sister was 10 years older than me, or is, I should say, still is 10 years older than me. My brother's 7 years older than me. And so when I was a kid, it was a lot of times they were doing their thing, and I was just like, and so I had all these hand-me-down stuff. I had a hand-me-down craft book. And so I said, I'm going to look through this craft book, see what I want to do today. And I found a How to Build Your Own Pet Rock. And I thought, this is the weirdest thing ever. Why would I want to do this? I thought, let's do it anyway. So I went out and I found a rock, right? And I decided, that's not good enough. I'm going to actually make this look like a pet. So I found other rocks. So I got, the typical, just round stone. If you guys don't want to talk about the pet rock, and talk about, if you don't know what I'm talking about, come back next week and we'll talk about it a little more. A pet rock, the typical pet rock. And then I had, little feet, got 4 little feet. And then I got another one for the head. And I glued it all together. And then I got out construction paper, made little eyes, made dog ears. And I had my pet dog rock. And what I remember so vividly about this was 2 things. One, the glue I had at the time was that Elmer's glue. But it was, I don't know if you remember this, but they used to have purple Elmer's glue. You guys, I don't even remember now. I guess I don't do much gluing with Elmer's glue anymore. But it was purple. It would dry purple. So my rock was a purple pet dog rock, right? Just so you know, I just kind of had, I had so much glue on it. That's how it ended up. And the second thing to know is, it was so funny. I have all the things you make. For whatever reason, my mom just really enjoyed and got a kick out of this rock. So, as your mom purges your room as you get older, and you're growing up, and just kind of throws things out, and you don't realize they're gone. Moms, we're on to you, right? The pet rock remained. In fact, I had this till I was an adult and moved around so much. And finally, one day, I just was like, I've seen this so many times in my life, I don't need this pet rock anymore. I get rid of it. I have a vivid image in my mind of what this pet rock looks like still. And so I had a pet rock. And my pet rock just sort of sat on the shelf. That was about it, right? It really didn't bring me much joy or do anything. I had dogs, I had parrots, I had all sorts of family members and stuff like that to do all sorts of fun stuff. But I remember the idea behind it was weird to me. I'm going to make a pet rock that does nothing, and it's going to bring me joy. Right? And the irony of what was going on. Well, I chose this passage in 1 Peter as we look at this first chapter. Because, I don't know if you've heard it, but there's a lot of things in it when it talks about joy. And in today's world, how many books are written on how to get your happiness, right? How many books or TV shows do you go on and it's here's how to be happy. And here's 3 things to do, right? And I thought it interesting because Peter, when he writes this letter, he actually mentions joy. And I just want to point to it again. If you have your Bibles open, it's in verse 8. So 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 8. It says this, though you have not seen him, you love him, speaking about Jesus. And even though you do not see him now, you believe in him and what? Are filled with describes this joy in two different ways. Inexpressible and glorious. Do you know, as a follower of Jesus Christ, we were supposed to be filled with an inexpressible and glorious joy? It's good news. I don't know if you do that. Like, you don't have to read a book. You're just going to be filled with it today. It's going to happen. It's going to be boom. But you are supposed to be filled with inexpressible and glorious joy. Now, if you read the Gospels, you know that word inexpressible, I don't think this is what he's saying. I don't think this is how he's using it. I don't think he's saying, you know what, you have a joy inside you and it just has to stay there. You can't let it out. It's inexpressible. So it's just it's going to be there. It's kind of sitting on the background. When you go in your private little corner, you know, you're going to feel it, but like you can't let anybody else know about it. You know, that's not what he's saying. It's not inexpressible. What I think he's saying is it's a joy inside you that's so glorious, so big, so great, you can't put words to it. You can't, the human language doesn't have enough bandwidth, if you will, to actually express the greatness and gloriousness of the joy that should be inside each and every single one of us. And the truth is, if you're following Jesus Christ, it's down there somewhere. You just got to get some other things out of the way to uncover it once again. And it just, you don't have to do anything. This is going to shine, right? And I've noticed in my life, as I've thought about it, this is maybe a personal sermon here today, and hopefully there's some things that are helpful for you. But when I notice in my life when I'm not feeling that joy inside me, there's some reasons for that. It's because I've let a whole lot of cares of this world trump some other things that actually 1 Peter mentions here in this passage. And I want to challenge you maybe with these same things here today. Of maybe you let your joy be covered up by some stuff of this world. Or maybe you've forgotten some deep truths that if you put that at the forefront of your thoughts, if you put that at the forefront of what you were going to do today and to remember today, all of a sudden it can't help you. It's just that joy is like a train that just pushes everything else into its proper place, and it's right at the center of your life. I never, ever will forget, when I graduated college, my buddy Taylor and my buddy Nikki and I, three of us, we went backpacking through Europe. And so we did the typical poor college thing, you know, you fly over to like Italy and then you try to backpack as far as you can. We went towards England, and I actually had to leave before the trip ended because I had a wedding to go to. But my friends, they made it all the way to England, and we were going through, and I remember we were at an Italian, trains. You take trains all over the place when you backpack to Europe. And we're just sitting there, just eating our kebabs, because that's what you do when you're in Europe. Everywhere has kebabs, and they're just delicious. And they're just on the side of the street, so you just buy them, right? It's like a hot dog stand. You buy your kebabs, we're sitting there just munching on everything, and all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, this person comes up to us. And this actually was a mom and a daughter, and the daughter, who's, like 20, comes up to us and says, "You guys are Christians, aren't you?" And we're just like, "Yeah, we are." Right? It's a trick question. Where's this going? And she says, "I knew it." And we go, "Okay." And she says, "I knew you were Christians because you were smiling." And all of a sudden we started looking around and we noticed no one else, at least in the train stations, right, in Europe, smiles. Like, it's kind of like going into Walmart, they always support, like, commercials always are like, "Oh, we're looking at Walmart." And you go to Walmart and everybody's like, "Oh." It's kind of like that, like there's this perception, right? And I think it's really funny, like, in American culture, even you hear politicians talk and all that stuff. It's so funny to me now to think about it because, they're always mentioning, like, well, Europe does it this way, Europe does it this way, so we could do the same thing. And then it's kind of like, if we just do it, Europe does. Ooh, just do it, Europe does. And then, after my backpacking travels through Europe, I've decided, I don't want to be Europe, right? Like, let's be United States, let's be Americans, and let's figure out what's right for us, and not, through whatever Europe is doing, they can do their own thing. But I find it funny that, like, in that train station, someone knew us as Christians just because they saw a joy in us. How remarkable is that, right? And it